Howdy y'all, welcome back to my Terra Invicta series. So this is not going to be a full episode. What we're going to do is just a little bit of a tutorial. This was a question, I guess a reply to my question by Senaziritus. And I apologize for taking a month to respond. I don't get notifications for that for whatever reason. So I'm doing that now, and he just basically asked if I could do a little bit more of a tutorial on resources. So that's what we're going to be doing now, and I figured I might as well just do a general tutorial overall. So I'm going to go back over some of the stuff I did in episode 1, just teaching y'all the game. I'm not going to create a new game, however, we're just going to use the one I have now. That way I can give you the reason as to why you're doing this. So we're going to start off with resources, like requested. You have your money. Money is required for certain missions that you're going to put that into as a way to boost it, as you've seen me do before with several resources. It's also required for orgs. Some of them will take up some money, some will give money, habitats and ships will use it up. If you mouse over the ones at the top, like I'm doing now, you can see your income, the positives and the negatives, as to what's doing that. And it gives you a little blurb about why it's important. But those are the main points. You get them from funding from your countries, from your counselors, that'd be organizations. Your nations obviously have that. You do get some from HABs, and then you get a little bit from unused mission control. HABs take up more money than they typically produce. So if we go over to Nanofactory, because Nanofactories do produce some money, you can see that it's producing me 154 money per month, and that is going to be from the 3 Nanofactories it has here. Each producing 90 each, so that'd be 270 total, and everything else just reducing that back down to 150. If we go back, we'll go to our Luna base, because it should be producing some. Yeah, our medical is producing 80. They only produce 60 per month instead of 90. They do have a bunch of other upkeeps, namely boost and water and volatiles that you have to use farms on to reduce, but the farms don't take a whole lot of money up. So those are your main ways of getting your money. Next one is going to be influence. Influence is used, again, as a way to improve certain missions, but it's also going to be used for a lot of events. It's also used to get new counselors. So the biggest one in the beginning is counselors, and if your counselors ever die, recruiting does cost a set amount, and this cost will change depended on their profession. So this one's a hacker, and those will give you different upgrades, and that will be what that influence is mostly used for. I don't think they've ever specifically showed this off, but this is your monthly ledger, also inside the council screen, and it's going to show you the entirety of your resources, where you're getting them from, what's taking them up, so on and so forth. If you want to expand it, then you can. So if you click on it, it will open up and show you everything. Clicking on it again to close it, etc. Ops are how you do secretive-esque missions. So I guess money is going to be persuasion missions, like your not control nation, like your take over certain organizations, as well as your public campaign, like you're just funding those more. You're either trying to buy advertising basically for the public campaign, or you're trying to, I guess, buy out that company. Influence is stuff that you're exerting influence on someone. So that would be your takeover missions, stuff like that. Ops are your secretive stuff. They're not super important. They're used for, investigating alien crashes. That's going to be the biggest one. Taking out Xenoflora to boost that. And again, some of the events also use them, also in line with the secretive or forceful, or use of force rather. Next one is going to be boost. This is really only important in the middle game, early and middle game. Early game, whenever you're trying to launch things where you get a stable space income, the space income will nullify boost use entirely, because you're building it in space using space materials instead of launching the materials from Earth. It's also used in the mid game with your different habitat options, which is why I have basically none now, because I'm using up 1.8 per month from HABs. Sorry, per day from HABs. And those will be the things that people are moving back and forth from a lot. So your medical, stuff like that. So if you go back to here, here's our medicine. So our research campus does not, because they're living on the research campus. Our medical facilities are, because you're sending people up from Earth to get their medical treatment and then back down, is how I look at it. And there's a couple other ones that require it. Again, once you're building things, you can see what they're going to cost right here. So if you click on it, you'll be able to see their costs over on this left-hand side, or you can just mouse over them and see it as well. Our next one is going to be MC, or Mission Control. This is how you do anything out in space. Your habitats cost it, your ships cost it, some of your habitat buildings cost more. You do get text like we saw in my last episode, the episode 11, if I remember correctly. It might be episode 10. I believe it's episode 10. I got several texts that reduced the amounts of MC used for certain things by 15%. So that's, if you go over that cap, you have a chance of losing control of them because you don't have enough control for them, hence the name. Next one is going to be daily research. Not really a resource per se, but it is good to know. I have all of mine on daily. That is important to note. If your number seems much larger than mine, probably because yours is on monthly, I believe that is the default. I just can't understand monthly for whatever reason. Just does not click in my head. But here's the research. It directly plugs in to your research tab. Surprise, I know. And then gets modified by your, if it's the engineering project, it gets modified by your engineering project efficiency, and also gets modified by your specific research type efficiency. And as you can see, because I have two of my researches are military tech, they do get reduced from 89% to 80%. Obviously, the smaller the number is to begin with, the smaller that reduction is going to be. If I had multiple alien or xeno techs, it's going to get reduced by a much larger than if I have multiple space science techs. Next one is CP, or control points. Basically the same thing as mission control, but for the ground. This is how you control nations. So if you have enough CP for a nation, good, you don't have any problems. If you go over that cap, instead of risking losing the nation not arbitrarily, but like on a random chance, it makes it easier for the opponents to do a crackdown or a purge mission against you. Our next one are going to be our space resources. This is water. The biggest one, it's needed in every single habitat building, because obviously you have to give water to your people. It's also used in a lot of your drives as a propellant. So if we go here to ship construction, designer, and you look at your drives, especially the early game drives, they're going to take a lot of water. So this Diana Super Heavy rocket takes 6 water and 4 volatiles per tank. So if I go and put 100 tanks on here, because I need that KPS, and I only have 15 KPS, it's going to cost me a lot of water. There it goes. Okay. So as you can see, I'm not having to put anything else on, and my KPS is going to go down because it's just not efficient. So, but if you look at some of your other drives, so the one I'm using right now, which is a Poseidon Lantern, it costs a lot of still water, so 6.5 waters, 1.5 volatiles, and 2 fissiles. To start moving over to this other side. If you were to use the burner drive, 9.8 water, so a lot more, but only 0.1 fissiles, and also 0.1 nobles. These are things that you have to realize as you go through things. And kind of the problem I'm having now in my series is that I simply don't have enough fissile income to support my massive fleet. So if you look at my ship classes, the Ulan class battlecruiser takes 101 fissiles, and I'm making 0.71 per day. So 100 days, 3 months, and I haven't even produced enough fissiles for a single Ulan class battlecruiser. So that's just something that you need to keep a note, something that I let go from myself and need to fix. Our next one is going to be volatiles. So these are also used in your every single building. Think of it as like the gas for your gas heating. Same thing. Not a whole lot of heat in space, gotta supply it yourself. These are the volatiles there. Also used in a lot of your drives, again, because you gotta burn stuff. So, there we are. These are your base metals. These would be pretty big because, again, you have to build everything. But they are a lot more plentiful than water volatiles, depending on the sites. And each site is randomized per game, so you could get a game like me that doesn't have any fissiles at all, but has, you could be pulling 60 water a day. Or you could be the exact opposite, and you've got 15 water per day and 20/40, but you have like 5 fissiles per day. It just depends on what it is. Noble resources, these are used for stuff like electronics, whatnot, same thing as now. They're used in a lot of your ship pieces in small quantities, same as your habitats. These are the ones you're going to be using the least. I typically find that I've never run out of them. I also find that these are the hardest to get, except for fissiles. Fissiles are used for your torpedoes, if you have nuclear torpedoes, some of your drives, things like that. Not super important overall. They are pretty expensive if you want to sell them, though. So that's what they're mostly used for, I find. Or if you have the drive like I do, used for that as well. He also asked, in the same question, if I could explain how I go about looking for places to mine. And I typically stick with your big places. So Mars, Mercury, Venus, etc. Not so much Venus, there's no mining there. But I typically stick for those. Find it just easier, unless there's a very, very juicy place. Also very much easier to defend. So you can have 12 mines on Mars and 1 defense fleet for all of them, instead of having, 12 mines scattered throughout the asteroid belt, and you have to have a defense force for all of them because they're so far away. Like, look at 165 Loreley here, and 25 Phoenicia. I can't get a fleet from either side in enough time to defend against an alien fleet. Also, if I'm in the wrong stellar geography, I can't get from Mars to Phoenicia now, but I might be able to get to Loreley. It just depends on the area. So that's why I stick with the big places. But you will see, like I have out here, that's the wrong one. There is a reason to go there. I'm getting 112 water and 140 volatiles from Loreley. So it is very, very nice in certain cases. If you want to look at them all entirely instead of just clicking around like a bum, go to your prospecting tab. This will only show things that you have prospected. So if you haven't, researched the Mars yet, then you can only see the moon. On the other side, the transfer planner, the solar system, will show you everything even if you haven't already seen it. So like Marduk, I haven't actually looked at Marduk, but they're assuming that it's going to be pretty high in volatiles, and they're not even sure what's going to be for fissiles and nobles at all, but these ones are pretty low. And I believe these are based off actual data that we have on these planetary bodies. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that Terra Invicta and the development team for it is very big on the accuracy of their information put into the game. So that's what I typically use. And if you click on whatever you're looking for, and that's going to be, it's going to sort it by the most, or click on it again, the least. So if I were to go for fissiles, because I need those, then out here is where I want to be in this Kuiper belt. Granted, I can't really get out there because aliens, but it is something to be aware of. Let's look at Linus here. He's got 4.2 per day, so I might want to go out here and take the protectorate off of this, so I can get 4.2 more fissiles per month. Because I'm only pulling in 21, so that's a fifth of my fissiles if I got that. And typically, bigger number, always better. You're never going to go, dang, I have way too much of this. You just build more ships. But you do need to build around that. So, like I'm saying here, I don't have enough fissiles, so I'm going to look for more fissiles, hence here. That's how I go about these things. And again, in the early game, you just want to stick around to... I typically put a base onto Luna because then you get fast resources. I know some people skip Luna entirely because it's not very good, typically, and go straight for Mars. That's entirely feasible as well. So those are the big things about resources. And don't worry about these two here. You're not going to get those until a lot later. These are your exotics, and they're how you build your late game tech. You start incorporating some of the alien medieval materials to make them better. And this is antimatter. It's typically only used for late game torpedoes, or late game drives use them as well. Our next thing we're going to go over is organizations. So if you go to your council, you click on your counselor, you've got this panel over here. Mine already has organizations because, like I said, I've got 11 episodes made. I'm still working on the 11th one. I'm also 15 years into the game, so I already have a bunch of organizations. The big thing about organizations is their yields they give to you and stars. Stars are how much it takes. So this one here, 3 stars, I have to have 3 ore capacity for it. Ore capacity comes directly from administration. You can't get it any other way. And you can only have a total of 15 orgs, so you have to choose wisely. Each org has its own different things. If you click on it, you can see. So this one will give me $20 per month, 3 engineering projects, and 1 science for my counselor. He also has a takeover defense of 12, and I can sell them if I want for $362, and I guess 70 cents, however they make that. And that's what I would do here if I wanted to sell it. If you unequip it, it goes to your unassigned orgs. You can see all those here. Again, you can only have a certain number of unassigned orgs as well. Your important thing is that you don't want to just throw all your orgs onto one guy. You want to specialize them. So he has a lot of my money, and I also have him where he has a little bit of extra admin, so boost him up. And he's here mostly for that admin. He also gets a couple missions over here: surveil location, public campaign, investigate counselor. If we look at, is it Lexian? Lexian is a criminal. That means he is able to get things labeled as criminals. He is not able to get certain organizations either. So the Hesla organization is a criminal organization. The Sinaloa cartel is a criminal organization. Zeus cartel is a criminal. So he can get those. If you don't have criminal, or especially if you have government, you cannot get those. And those typically have a bunch of administration on them, and they typically also have ops, because cartels, they use secretive stuff, and they typically also have investigation or espionage on them. They typically also give you a lot of money. So the Sinaloa cartel is giving me 80 money, 2 ops, 1 espionage. Those are typical things for the criminal enterprises. They also give you typical criminal missions. So he has assassinate and detain, so kidnapping, basically. On the opposite end of the spectrum is going to be government. Let me see. So Darren here has government. He works for the government. Obviously he can't get cartels because that's not a government entity. He can, however, get certain things like foreign intelligence service, so government organizations. If I believe this the CIA on here as well, U.S. Special Forces Group. Here, the Goddard Space Flight Center. It's not required. Government is a requirement for it, but you cannot have criminal for sure. That is one of the things that blocks it. So that is something to be very certain of. And certain things, people can get criminal or government, and if they spawn with it, you can't get rid of it. Except there are certain events that could remove it if you choose not to do them. So that is another thing to be aware of with government and criminal. They do have event chains with them. So eventually, sometimes you'll get a pop-up. I believe there's 1 or 2 that you'll get. That's like they're calling you back to do a mission because you haven't quite gotten rid of your work with them. And if you choose not to do it, there's a chance that you lose the government, a chance that you just die, there's a chance that you lose some organizations, stuff like that. If you do choose to do it, then you have to do 1 of 3 missions, and then you'll have a relatively low, to be quite honest, chance of succeeding. I think it's like 70 to 50%. 70 being the one that gives you very little, and 50%, and then 35% for the last one. There's also another one, especially for government. I don't know if criminal has it, but government one where you have to like sabotage another country or plant some intelligence that looks bad for them or stuff like that. So that is something to be aware of. There's also some that just straight up give administration, but they do cost malice. So you just need to be aware of certain things when you're looking at them. These ones, like the cyber security I've got right here, are pretty good because they give you a pretty big bonus to a lot of your investment pips for your countries. That's the big reason I have that, because I can get 3 command pretty easily on Angrid. The next type of organization are your faction-specific ones. So, if it's Humanity First, I have the Executioners. This gives the same exact bonus every single time you play. It's never going to be different. It also cannot be stolen by other factions, because of course they are made by Humanity First. Like, this isn't, they just found some guy called the Executioner that wants to work with you. It's Humanity First made an organization called the Executioners, and they go out and, well, get rid of or execute enemy operatives, aliens, people against them, etc. Staying in the Counselor page, we're going to look at traits and augmentations. So this is a pretty late game for your augmentations. You're not going to have these at the very beginning. You will have these ones here. So undercover, aware, low profile, government, hard target, suspicious, checkist, addict. Your augments can get new ones. So I can remove addict here. -1 espionage, -2 security, -4 security if I have 0 or less than 0 money. I should probably actually remove that. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. But you can also add stuff like security, or survivor rather, that gives an extra security. Affluent, that gives +1 money per month. Marked is one that I've gained because I assassinated someone that had a certain trait on them, which I have so much security and espionage that it literally doesn't affect her. But you do get event chains that affect that. I believe it was episode 4 or 5. I really can't remember, it's been so long. But there was an event chain where if I didn't get good rolls, then she just died because she was marked and everyone was trying to kill her. You can also get Iron Hand, that gives a +10% bonus to my oppression priority, because I have Checkist, which gives +5% off the bat. And augmentations are what you get later on in the game. These are not available through XP, they are available through money. They are cybernetics. I have tier 2s on her right now, with I believe 1 tier 3, being the Ferrocite emitter. As you get them, they give better buffs, usually just a +1, so your tier 1 gives a +1 to everything, tier 2s get +2, tier 3s get +3, of course, and they also have some other bonus. So like, Stealth Field here gives me +3 espionage, which is just going to add 1 because I have the countermeasures, which gives +2, but also gives a +1 to espionage when being detected by other counselors. So effectively it's +4, but it doesn't, it's just how it calculates different things. You can also get ones called the four-brain stimulator, as well as, if I can find it, the loyalty monitor. These will affect your loyalty, so if you're worried or don't want to keep doing investigations on your own counselors, you can grab those. However, they do have negative effects. The four-brain stimulator gives +3 loyalty and +3 apparent loyalty, but it reduces their command and science because you're basically neutering them. The loyalty monitor allows you to always see their loyalty, but you give a -5, and you can't increase loyalty past a certain number. So like, if you have administration, I have 26 effective administration, but I can only use 25 of it. So if I have a -2, then it just acts against the 26, not the 25. Loyalty is different. You can only get a max of 25. You cannot go over and get a buffer, essentially, of loyalty. And they all have certain things. So Quick Learner, that's going to be some of the best. Augmentations cost fewer XP. I believe there's one above that's 30% or 40%, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. Ethical is a -1 loyalty whenever we commit an atrocity, but you get +1 persuasion in nations with an inequality of 3.5 or less. So I probably need to go back over and look at Lexion, because he might not be the best. I think this last known is actually accurate because of how we have, because of a bug with the turned counselors. So she has 3 and Lexi has 8, so I need to look at them. They might be turned. Next is going to be missions. Missions, as you can see here, can be added. It's pretty hard to do so, and some of them are very, very hard to get. So Inspire and Turn Counselor, despite what it looks like here, are actually kind of hard to find organizations that give those missions. And again, if you have government or you have criminal, some missions are easier to get than others. So government, it's easier to get command missions. Criminal, it's easier to get espionage or investigation missions. Missions are how you affect the world through your counselor. So Alexei here, I have him doing primarily advise missions. He's got 25 administration, 20 science, 8 command, 18 security, so he's pretty good at doing that. Advise missions go off immediately and they boost the statistics of the nation that they are advising. Administration gives more investment points, science gives more science, command gives better military power, and you want security because he's sitting in the same spot over and over again doing the same exact thing. So it makes him easier it makes it harder to kill, and espionage makes him harder to see. But at the beginning of the game, I boosted his persuasion all the way up to 25 because his job was to run these persuasion missions, especially the public campaign and the turn counselor in the control nation. Speaking of missions with their resources, if you look at these, they have a little icon. These are the resources that are going to boost it. So how I said that the monetary will boost your public campaign as well as your hostile takeover because you're essentially buying these things. There we have. Command will use a lot of ops, espionage. We'll use everything. We'll use, I guess not everything, but it's primarily using influence for these things like defend interests, advise. Defend interest just calls it base. Defend interest and advise just calls it a base influence to use. These don't cost you influence to use, but you can spend it to increase them, the chance of you getting them. These ones are going to be on every counselor unless they have homesick, I believe, or grounded. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I hate it, so I just don't pick them if they have it, unless they're really, really good. In which case, it will get rid of the orbit, deorbit, and transfer. But every other counselor will have these 3. These are not specific to a profession or anything like that. You also cannot get these from an organization. As you can see, they're going to vary quite a bit. So certain ones, obviously I don't need much more on a professor. She's going to be mostly doing professor things, which is going to be a lot of advising. I believe I also have her doing quite a bit. Yeah, I have her advising or doing persuasion missions. Moving on is going to be your nations. It looks like a lot of information, and it kind of is. It get pretty overwhelming, so I'll do a breakdown of everything we're looking at. First, your overview. We're going to have your government type, your unrest level, and your national gross domestic product. Your democracy, or it'll go from totalitarian to anocracy, I believe is the 5, and then full democracy at 9. The higher the democracy, the better your science is going to be. However, the worse your cohesion is going to be, as well as your unrest, because you're giving them the ability to riot. If you have a totalitarian government, you obviously can't do that. You just get shot. So, important to know. If you have 10, it also does not give a bonus to your cohesion. Actually, it does. So if you're at, I believe it's an 8, you get a malice. But unrest is how mad people are. The higher the unrest, the lower your investment points are going to be. There is a malice to that. GDP is just how well is your country doing prosperously, and that does affect certain things. Graveless Gaming just did a in-depth tutorial on that. Don't worry about it. It's not super important. Just more, better. It's really all you need to worry about. Next is your military. This top one is your military technology level. This one is going to be your naval level. These are the amount of atomic barrages you have, if you have any. This is the number of armies you have, plus the maximum number you can have. This is exo fighters. Number you have, the maximum amount you can have. First off, military technology level. Every one level gives a new age. So I'm in 5.8, so 5 is the robotics age. That will change what this looks like. The icon right here, as well as the picture here, changes. Pretty cool, I love it. Every 0.1 is a 10% increase in combat power. So a 5.8 is 10% better than a 5.7. You will also see that it's not really a 5.8. It's a 5.8 plus 0.3 plus 0.08 plus if it's defending you get a 0.2. If you're on your ground, if you're on your sovereign territory, you get another bonus due to cohesion. So really, will it tell me? Yes, it's really fighting at a 6.63, which is a heck of a lot better. What would that be? 80%, nearly 90% better than before. So that is actually quite insane. And obviously if you stack them up, they do a lot better. Navy is going to determine whether or not you can cross the ocean at all. If there's not a navy attached to your division, it cannot cross oceans. And if you're at war, you're going to pit the entirety of the naval combat power of one side against the entirety of the naval combat power of the other side. And the higher number will blockade the lower number. So right now I'm being blockaded because I am at war, if you go to relations you can see this, with the Russia, Pakistan, alien administration, Ukraine, Angola, and South Korea. And mostly it's all coming from the alien nation. Because the alien nation has 54 because they have 6 armies at 9 power level. So that has a big effect on that. Next one is nuclear barrages. I'm not sure what makes up a barrage. You just click it once, launches a nuclear barrage, it does damage. That's really all I care about. The number that you have is the number of times you can click on a region to launch that nuclear barrage. Don't know how many it makes up or what their literal definition of barrage is. It's not super important at the end of the day. Just be careful that if you doomstack, AI factions will take advantage of that and will wipe out all of your guys in once because they launch a nuclear barrage on their own capital even. And I do believe that the nuclear barrage malice should be significantly higher, especially if you're using that on your own territory just to get rid of like a army division. It's kind of insane how easily it is to get away with doing stuff like that. Next one, pretty self-explanatory. I have 6 armies, I can have a total of 24. Why don't you have 24? That way you can get rid of the alien administration's naval bonus. Well, it costs quite a bit to launch an army. It costs 60 IP to launch an army, and then 100 to launch a navy alongside it. So a total of 160 investment points to launch an army with a navy. Also, whenever you have an army, it does do a malice to your investment points. So if you look at this, I have 38.2 investment points, but I'm losing 3 per day, 3 total from armies, and another 3 from having navies. The next one is exofighters. You can choose to add exofighters into your space combats inside of Earth orbits, but it does cost quite a bit of boost to launch them. I have 6 of them, I can have a total of 8, so I can get 2 more if I really wanted them to. To be honest, they're not the greatest. They're pretty easy to kill. They do have 2 torpedo pods of the torpedo of your choosing, as long as you have it unlocked, of course. So they do provide some bonus. I find that they're really just too easy to completely destroy. Our next one is going to be development. I touched on this a little bit. Your investment points are how you do things. So if you look down here at these pips, this is your investment priorities. So right now, because the aliens are bombarding indiscriminately, I have work going into the space defenses and the military because I am fighting them off. So 28% of my investment points are going into both. If you click on this, it will change it. So I'm getting 18.7 and 15.3 per per month into these points. And you can look at the bonus as to why they're different. So I'm getting 42% bonus to space defense and 73% to military, which is why it looks like that. Boost, I do need boost because, again, only have 0.28 per day. So I got 8.5 going to their government because I'm trying to reach a max government of 10. That is the best. So I got 9.6 there. Knowledge, because I'm trying to get to 12 knowledge for more research. So you got 4.9 there. And then Unity, I need to boost up a little bit so that it can fix this. So Unity will improve my public opinion as well as inequality. So that's your investment points. Next one is funding. Funding, obviously increased by your funding. And this goes directly into your faction. So this is not going to boost your country at all. It doesn't provide a malice to your country though. It doesn't provide a boost to it. It does, however, provide a boost to your funding as a faction. So right now I'm getting almost 70 money per day from my countries. I'm getting 600 of it per month A total of $11,000 per month is coming from the United States and North America alone. Next one is research. Obviously pretty self-explanatory. Go straight into my research. I'm getting 1.5 thousand research per month from the United States and North America alone, and it's only increasing. Also being increased by 25% because I have Darren here advising. Next one is monthly boost, getting 20.8 monthly boost goes straight into here. Same thing with mission control, 1-to-1 over here. And this is going to be based off your regions. Certain regions have certain amounts. So Mexico City can have 18 mission control units at once. If you look at this, so this is what the production of the nation is. This is how much I as a faction am getting. I have the entirety of the United States and North America under my control, therefore I'm getting the entirety of its resources. If you were to look at, here we go. So I'm only getting a certain amount from Germany because I only have one control point. The resistance has 2, and Germany has 1 control point controlled by the servants. Out of 17.7 investment points, I only have direct control over 4.4. So if I look at this per month, then I'm only providing, so I'm providing 2.2 into boost and 2.2 into funding. The servants are also providing some into it for a total of 3.3. So it is broken up in that way. It's not side to side, it's per thing. So at a 17.7, it's split up, I believe it's split up pretty evenly. You just divide them by the number of control points there are, and that's what each column has. Only getting 170 money, 56.9 science, 1.5 boost, and 6 mission control for the same exact reason as before. Next one is going to be under the next tab. So this says people on it. Here's your population and how it is acting. I've got nearly 600 million people in the size of the United States and North America, and it is decreasing every month by about 59,000. This has affected by several things. There's a pretty long and complicated formula for that. Basically, the higher your education is, and some other factors, I'm just simplifying it, but think of it, the higher education it is, and the higher democracy, higher GDP, the less kids you have. It's the same thing we're seeing in real life. This is going to be your per capita GDP. So each person, the average income for a person in the United States of North America is $45,000. This is your environment or your sustainability. I currently have a 3.5. The max you can get is a 10. Once you do reach 10, you start removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. Just think that the higher the number, the lower the atmospheric gases, the greenhouse gases that you're putting into the atmosphere, the higher number is better. Next is your education. This is essentially boiled down to how much science are you putting out. But again, it also affects the your resistance to propaganda, your cohesion, as well as your population growth. And if you go and mouse over it, you can see what affects it. And you can also see a little bit of how it affects. Very, very nice blurb they give you there. Next one is inequality. You don't really need anything below 2. Doesn't give any bonuses. Hard to get down there. But the lower the inequality, the higher the cohesion. Next, again, is that cohesion. So cohesion 5 is the best for science. 10 is the best for low unrest. If you have low cohesion, you have a lot of unrest. If you get down to 0 cohesion, your unrest skyrockets by like +1 per month, which gets very, very hard to combat. And you can see what it is. So you have a base value of 16. Again, 10, very good for unrest. And everything against it either gives a minus or a plus. There will be a lot more minuses than there are pluses. That's why you start at 16, not 10. In fact, if we were to stop these wars, then we would drop from a 6 down to a 3, because it just, once you get to big countries, it's just hard to get. Our next thing we're going to go over is direct investment. So you could wait for these to work out normally, or you could go into direct investment and put your faction's resources into it. So I have 10,000 influence. So if I go ahead and pump in a bunch of funding, so I could put in 100, it's going to cost me 3.8 thousand influence, and it's going to increase my funding as like on a time skip, essentially, because I'm just putting direct investment into that. we don't want to do that because my funding is actually pretty good at a positive 17.3. And that's the only one that doesn't cost anything besides influence. If I wanted to really speed up my built army, for example, I can go ahead and do that. I can only get one because I only have 600 money, but I can increase that, and my next army, as you can see here, is going to be built inside of Mexico City. I could put some into here if I had enough for that, and you can see how it's going to affect it. Whenever you complete a set, as you can see over here, so some of them require 1, some of them require 60. Once you complete it, you will see what you'll get. So for every 1 investment point I put in, immediately completes something like spoils. Every 2 I put in immediately completes a boost. And it will show right here. So I'll get a 0.16 to 0.37, there, 36 on a range, depending on where it puts it into, per year. So very small. Again, 16 per year for that funding, if I were to put it in. So 100 will complete funding 100 times, so I will get 1,600 per year. You divide by 12, that's how much per month. Divide by another 31, that's how much you get per day. If you want to do a priority template, which is what I have here, though I'm not using it currently, this will be how it will populate. So my saving is my default. So every time I can control over a control points, it's going to automatically go to this, the best of its ability. If you haven't unlocked space defenses yet, you obviously cannot build space defenses. If you're like Kazakhstan, and I've already completed the funding, you cannot build any more funding, then I could put all of my points into funding that I wanted, but it's never going to go there because it's been completed. So I believe it now goes to government. I know they changed it recently, so I'm not entirely sure on that, but if it's not able to pick anything, it used to go straight to spoils, but now it goes to something else. So I've got 1 for saving, and I've got 1 for sustain, which is my usual one, but I have since swapped over to a more concentrated one, because you want to have the fewest of these filled out as possible. So you're seeing as you're putting only 11% into your max, you're kind of spread out all over the place, not a good way to play it. You want to have something more like this, where you're not working on things that you don't need. And honestly, I could probably bump down on my boost, because not something I desperately need anymore. I need other things quicker. Next is going to be spaceships. So we looked at this a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to go back over the ship designer. I've talked about that before. Basically, what you're looking at is these numbers here. This is how much it weighs, not super important. This is the type. This is very important, because that will depend, or that will make sure you can only put certain things on it. This is the combat power as judged by the system. Some things are judged better than others when they shouldn't be. They're still trying to get that nailed down. So it's not a steadfast rule, because there are ways to overwhelm it, as you saw in my last episode, episode 10 that I published at the time of this recording. We defeated ones that were 3,000 combat power with a 900 combat power, simply because we were able to overwhelm their point defense and knock them down anyways. So it's, again, not a hard, fast rule. This is your Marine complement. If this is going to be your spaceship's firepower, this is the Marines you have. So you can launch Marines, not during combats like your drop podding, which would be super cool if you could, but this is going to be taking over stations or halves, what have you. This is your acceleration, so this is going to be your out of combat and your in of combat. This is your KPS, Delta V, basically how far can you go, essentially. It's not quite like that, but basically the higher number, the better, though you don't always need a higher number, especially if you're only going to be defending a certain area. So like if you're only defending Earth, you only really need about 10 KPS to move around fast. If you're going to go from Earth to Mars, you're going to need about 30 KPS. If you go Earth farther, obviously you need more. If you have more KPS, it means you can burn more, so you can get there faster, do a heavy burn, and slow down faster. These are the number of ships you have of that type. The number on the left is how many you have. The number on the right, that's a little bit golden, is the number you have queued up. The biggest, most important thing is this box right here. This is how much it costs to build your ship. I touched on this a little bit more, but the Ulan class battlecruiser costs 101 fissiles to make. So it's going to take 143 days for me to make enough fissile material to build a single Ulan class battlecruiser. And it's going to take more than that to construct it. So if you go over here to ship construction, and you click on the Ulan class, it's going to take another 144 days to build. So it takes the same amount of time to build one as it does to mine enough resources to build it in the first place. So it's going to take nearly 300 days, nearly a year, for us to build a single Oolong class battlecruiser because of that. Here is a more in-depth view of your ship details. This is just for the class entirely. This is for the individual ship, and they do get some different effects depending on the officers that have been promoted. You can also see what they have going on right now as far as damage wise, if they've used up some of their ammunition, etc., etc. Fleets list, pretty self-explanatory. It shows you all the fleets of the faction. You can choose all factions, in which case you're going to be drowned out by the aliens, who we have knocked down nearly 8,000 combat power, so that's pretty good. Human factions, so you can compare yourself against the enemy, in case we have gotten quite the slapping. We went from about 1,940 ships to 357 combat power and 15 ships. So we used to be equal with the servants. We are no longer. Though, with the way they have their fleet spread out, we can quite easily take them out. Next thing we're going to be going over is to do with the aliens. So, this right here is the alien hate bar. The farther up, the more they hate you. Further down, the more lenient they will be. We also go to the alien tab here. So these are the aliens that we know about. We just know the one right now. These are the slights. So they have 3 alien structures. There's 3 alien activities and a bunch of alien life forms to go with them. These are all the fleets. These are their habitats. These are the events pertaining to the aliens. And this will be everyone. So this is me fighting the aliens. But there will also be ones, right? More humanity first, because we were fighting them quite a bit. They were attacking, terrorizing the civilians. So that would be this one right here, this alien activity. You can see where they're moving around, etc., etc. Once you get to once you get to the typically that burnt orange color, they're gonna retaliate in some way until they get down to this, like, I don't know, cream orange type color in the middle, then they typically stop. If you get a bar that's full red, that means total war. They're gonna wipe everything that's not on Earth out, and then they'll reduce back down to a normal footing. At that point, you're typically just better off going for the kill. If not, you have horribly mismanaged your alien hate meter. These tabs are always nice. This is the nations tab, quick overview of every single nation you have, all the things I just talked about, military combat power, number of navies, number of armies, number of nuclear barrages, if they're at war or at peace, they have exo fighters, their sustainability, unrest, cohesion, inequality, education, government, people, research, MC, boost, money, investment points, how much you are liked, what's the leading faction of I suppose, leading popularity, and then what your faction popularity is, how many control points, who controls them, and if they are defended or not. That's what that little shield is. That's a control point that's being defended. It's a malice towards other factions trying to take it over. I usually find that after a certain number, or after a certain time, it's just simply not required, especially on the large nations like China and the United States and the European Union. It's not required unless you do something horribly, horribly wrong, which is why I really only have Kazakhstan and Germany that's being defended, because the Gulf states are entirely too small for them to really care about. This is your HABs. This shows your ground HABs and your space HABs. I know it's opposite. I'm flipping on these to show you what they are. I've got it separated to only humanity first because I don't care about the others at the moment. In all locations, but you can separate them down to every single location type. You can sort them by certain modifiers. So, marine complements, if they're under construction, if they're being defended. Space defenses and marine defenses are different. Marine defenses only work against marines. Space defenses only defend against bombardment. If they have a space dock where you can produce ships, they have a resupply dock where you can resupply ships. They are different, though most places that can build ships can also resupply. Exotics production, antimatter production, fissile production, noble material production, regular metals production, is volatiles production, water's production, MC usage, where they are, and their name. So here you can manage them, or you can just click on here. If you just click on something, it goes into it, or if you click on one you've already selected, it goes into it as well. I've already gone over these quite a bit in my earlier episodes, so I'm not going to go over it again. Basically, the higher these numbers are, that's not negative of course, the better. Specialize them for certain things, don't just generalize them. So I've got this as a mining complex. I don't really care what's going on with the rest of it, which is why I have a bunch of skunk works. If you have a mine or something that's dedicated towards building something, administration towers are a must. This increases its output by 5%. But that's really it for my tutorial. I know it's going to be another hour, but I'll probably drop it down a little bit. So, if there's anything else that you would like to see, let me know in the comments down below. Did I miss anything? Should I go back over something a little bit better for you? I will do that in a normal episode and not a dedicated one. But thank you so much for watching this. If you could leave a like, a comment, subscribe, it would mean a lot to my small little channel. And I will see y'all in episode 11.